with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on the future. When you need a partner trusted by millions, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
I'm trying to find quality brake service.
Look no further than Big O.
How about oil changes?
Big O.
Or new wheels?
Big O.
Struts?
Yep, Big O.
Alignments?
We do those too.
Shocks?
Big O.
Inspections?
Big O's the place.
Fluid changes?
Yep.
Batteries?
Yep.
Even filter changes?
See.
And the best tires on the road?
Of course, Big O's got them. Get everything you need only at your locally owned Big O Tires.
Shake it up with Vital Protein's Collagen and Protein Shake. It's a high-quality, ready-to-drink shake with 30 grams of protein and 10 grams of collagen to support healthy hair, skin, nails, bones, and joints. With 0 grams of added sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and absolutely no carrageenan, it's a clean, delicious way to fuel your day. So you don't just age gracefully, you age powerfully. Vital Proteins. Stay vital. Learn more at vitalproteins.com.
Now here's a highlight from Coast to Coast AM on iHeartRadio.
And welcome back. George Norrie with you. KJ Tolson with us, author, speaker, spiritual teacher, paranormal mentor with more than 30 years experience helping others navigate the unseen realms, and there are many. He brings deep wisdom, practical guidance to those ready to explore the mysteries of the afterlife, shadow work, and ancient spiritual traditions. One of his books is called Runes for Transformation. Tonight we talk about spirit possession. KJ, welcome back.
Hey, George, it's great to be back. I love having these chats with you and hanging out with your listeners. It's a good group of people.
How have you been?
Hey, I've been doing great. Always busy, always keeping myself on top of things and just keep cranking out the stuff, you know. I have a lot to teach, I have a lot to share, so I keep myself busy.
You find that the spirit world seems to be manifesting itself these days?
Yeah, and the key to that is it's always been there, but what's going on is more people are becoming more aware, they're waking up to it, so they're seeing it more often. So it seems like the spirit world's more active, but it always has been. We're just tuning into it a lot easier nowadays.
How did you get involved in all of this?
I can say I was literally born into this, and by literally I mean I'm using that word correctly. My mom's doctor, when she was pregnant with me, it was Dr. Robert Bradley, who invented the Bradley method of natural childbirth. But he lived in a haunted house. He would have seances regularly at his house. He gave lectures at the spiritualist church that I went to. And a spiritualist church is a lot like a Protestant church, you know, typical service that you have. But it concludes with 1 to 3 trance channelers coming up on stage and doing channeling. And then we would hold seances in the basement every Saturday night. Plus, I grew up in a haunted house. You could see, like, the TV dial would change almost by itself. Radios would turn on in the middle of the night. You could hear footsteps going up and down the hallway, toilet flushing. I've been around this my entire life.
Gadgets, I just had a guest on talking about horror films, but what you deal with is real life stuff. That's scary.
Now, it can be, because, you know, what people are experiencing is real, but it's the interpretation where things go wrong. You see, to me, in my experience, I'm like 54 years old now, and like I said, I grew up with it. I've been around it my whole life. The scariest thing for me was reconciling what I saw in the horror movies versus what I was experiencing, because I kept seeing all these scary things. It's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be awful. I would hear these stories, you know, people would tell that were just scare the heck out of me as a kid, but my experiences didn't match that. And I've been helping people for decades with paranormal issues, learning how to coexist with the paranormal and connect. And I say the scariest thing is the fear-based narratives out there that are scaring people and making that makes the problem for themselves, because they can feel terrifying, and it can feel like these experiences are invasive, but these experiences aren't really what we've been told that they are. And when we can learn how to experience them for ourselves and connect for ourselves, we start to see just how natural the spiritual world is, how natural paranormal stuff is. And it takes away that fear by understanding it and connecting with it.
What does spirit possession mean to you, KJ?
That's a really good question, because that was something that scared the heck out of me for the longest time. Because at 7 years old, I saw The Exorcist. I stayed overnight at my... Seven. I stayed overnight at my grandmother's house for the first and only time. And after watching that movie with my sister, because she really wanted to watch it, I had to sleep alone in this unfamiliar room. It was dark. It was scary. My sister said I was a zombie for days. And I used to have reoccurring nightmares of not me being possessed, but other people being possessed, just like we would see in The Exorcist. And so that really got me going on, like, what is happening here? What's really going on? And so I did the deep dive. I took the look at it from different perspectives, not only the spiritual perspective, but from like the religious narratives that we've been given, the scientific perspective, and then I tried to gain it from my own understanding. And what I've come to the understanding about this is it's not what you see in movies. The movies are great. I love horror movies to this day. My wife and I love to sit and watch all the new horror movies that come out. We get a big kick out of them. They're kind of funny to us. But what goes on with possession, more often than not, it's a lost soul. Somebody that didn't cross over to the other side for whatever reason. Maybe they were afraid to. Maybe they didn't know they were dead. They didn't know what was going on. Or maybe it's a loved one, like a helicopter parent that thinks they know better. And so they start to engage with a person at the spiritual level more and more and more until that person isn't quite themselves anymore. They aren't acting, they aren't speaking or even thinking or feeling like their normal self, because that other lost soul has kind of taken over. But I haven't seen anything like what we see in the movies, like some big evil spirit or demon kind of thing throwing people around and making all sorts of mischief happening. I haven't seen that in my 54 years of doing this work, but I've kept my eyes open for it because, at one time it used to scare the heck out of me, but it doesn't anymore.
It doesn't mean it's not happening, though, right?
That could be true. I've had some paranormal investigators that I've worked with that had some very not so good behaviors after investigating places that weren't very good. Fortunately, they got to me in time where I was able to help stave off the issue. But when I've been working with clients over these years that have had spirit attachment issues, and I'm not going to say possession issues, but spirit attachment issues, it's always been a lost soul or an over-controlling loved one, like a parent, that just needs a better option and needs a chance to move on in a better way. But nothing, I don't know, maybe it happens out there. I haven't seen it in all of my years, though, but I've heard a lot about it from the scary stories.
When a client comes to you, what do they generally want?
Oh, various things, but if we're dealing with spirit attachment, or if they're being bothered by something that's potentially negative, they want to get their life back. They want to get their mind back, their whole being back, because they know something is off. They know they're not thinking and acting in a way that's in their best interest. And so they want to reclaim that. And they have been to the doctors. They have been checked out. They've talked to psychologists. They've done their work. And I appreciate that because, even though I grew up around this, even though I know paranormal is real, I'm still a skeptic. So if somebody's telling me they're not acting and behaving in the way that they normally do, I'm going to say, have you seen a doctor? Have you seen a psychologist? What have they said about this? And then we can go from there. And then we start to do some of the inner work and we do some of the spiritual work to help release that attachment.
And I know you're going to want some after hearing this. This is an amazing story.
We've got Stephen and Malachi Gregory in Nelson, New Zealand.
I understand that Malachi, who's 8, almost 9 years old now, was suffering with not just 1 or 2 warts, but a significant outbreak of warts all over his body. So significant it impacted his ability to really function.
Yeah, he was having trouble even holding a pencil to write. That was Ty's book, actually, that got me thinking about it.
I'm not surprised. It is an amazing immunomodulator, and so I can see that it would work.
And so at what point did you see that there was actually improvement? It's really going to work?
Well, look, we really started to notice it around 12 weeks. you can see these things actually getting smaller and smaller, and then going down to where they're just little red marks. The whole things are gone, and we're talking about one the size of a walnut. I thought, no way, that's gonna.
Wow.
That's just been miraculous to see him get into a pair of shoes.
Yes. How wonderful.
It's great to see him so happy and
Yes.
confident.
Absolutely wonderful.
Our friends that have seen it, they're just blown away.
Ty, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Another amazing story. Why? We're talking about Carnivora. Call them to awaken your immune system and protect yourself now. Call 1-866-836-8735. That's 1-866-836-8735. Or visit carnivora.com. CARNIVORA. Carnivora.com.
At Smith's Pharmacy, Care is making things convenient so you can shop and get alerts when your prescriptions are ready. Plus, our pharmacists help you find lower prices by accepting most prescription discount cards. Smith's Pharmacy stays open 7 days a week with weeknight hours, so we can help you get what you need when you need it. That's convenience that works for everyone. Smith's Pharmacy, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With access to business loans so you can expand and hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. Your customers can pay all the ways they want today with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards so you can focus on the future. When you need a partner trusted by millions, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
This is Jana Kramer from Wind Down with Jana Kramer. Instead of giving your mom something that fades, give her something that becomes part of her home this Mother's Day. The Lennox Spice Village is a set of 24 hand-painted little houses that are actually spice jars, perfect for anyone who loves to cook, entertain, or enjoy the little details that make everyday life special. As a mom, I love gifts that help turn ordinary moments into memories. Charming, timeless, and meant to be used, this is one of those pieces she'll treasure. And once you see it, you'll want it for your own home too. Find the full collection at lennox.com/spicevillage.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities, so do like I did. And have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You mentioned some of the spirit possessions, what they may do, but why do they do what they do?
For the most part, because they're lost and they're trying to find something familiar. And I'll give you sort of an example, a very real world example how this happens. Let's say somebody in their lifetime was a very severe alcoholic or a drug addict, and they didn't have a healthy life. They felt pretty miserable about their life. Maybe they got the beating, the emotional, mental beating that you're living a sinful life, you're doing all these sins, you're going to hell because you're such a bad person. Now they die. And they're not crossing over because they're afraid of that hell. They're afraid of that eternal punishment. They're going to hang out here on earth, but they still want that drink. They still want that fix. And so maybe they hang around a dive bar because there's a lot of open, vulnerable people in there. There's a lot of lower energies in some of these places. And they're hanging around there because it's familiar. Now they see somebody that is open and vulnerable, and maybe they're drinking a little too much, maybe they're feeling miserable, maybe they have the same kind of emotions, similar kind of thing, and that spirit goes, oh good, now here's where I can get my drink. And so they start to attach to that person, and it starts off very subtle, like, yeah, have another drink, yeah, have another drink, yeah, why didn't you say this really awful thing, why did you go do that really awful thing? It's so easy, isn't it? And little by little, that person, the living person, goes down a slippery slope where they start falling into the behaviors and the patterns of that spirit attachment, because that attachment, that spirit, wants that drink, wants that fix, wants that behavior, and it doesn't want to cross over. So it's trying to find something familiar to them within their comfort zone, and they are very subtly coaxing somebody into giving them what they want.
Is the spirit like a parasite?
Yes. Absolutely. They will attach to somebody, they'll drain their energy, they'll drain their resources, and they're doing it in that spirit's best interest. And they generally, unless it's like the helicopter parent, they generally don't have that person's best interest in mind. They've got their own interest in mind, and they don't care what they do to whomever to get what they want.
If you have 10 people lined up, roughly how many are vulnerable to spirit possession?
Almost all of them.
Really?
And I will say that the reason why this is because there's a big rule. I've got like 10 rules of interacting with the paranormal, and the biggest one is similarities attract and perpetuate. And every single one of us, myself included, is open and vulnerable to something attaching us. Maybe we've had a bad moment. Maybe we haven't been taking care of ourselves physically or emotionally or even spiritually. Maybe we're just kind of down on ourselves, and we hear a little whisper, we get a little emotional nudge, and we're like, yeah, that's so true, that's so right. And that is a little bit of a doorway for that thing to come in and attach. And the thing that I want to emphasize about this is it sounds scary when we're sitting here talking about it. It sounds like, oh, that's not anything I want, because we don't want that happening. But it's just as common as like a shark having those fish that are attached to it. Those fish lob on and go and attach to the shark, or a barnacle attaching to a ship. It's just the same kind of thing, which is why it's so important to maintain our spiritual hygiene, do our own inner spiritual work, and get these things cleared off, because it happens to everybody more often than you would believe.
There are a couple of spirit possessions. Some of them are dangerous, some of them are not, right?
I would say for a good market of them, they are pretty dangerous, even if it's a well-meaning loved one. You know, like I said, the helicopter parent, let's say it's like the mom was a helicopter mom, and she doesn't like the way her daughter's living her life. She's like, oh no, you never find the right man for you. You're never going to have a family. You're never going to settle down and do what a good wife should do. So why don't I come in here and help you out? Now that mom thinks she's acting in the best interest of her daughter, but maybe that daughter is pursuing a life completely different than what her mother would find acceptable, but it's what that daughter wants. It's maybe that daughter's purpose in life. But mom comes in and starts interfering and says, oh no, we're going to talk to this nice boy over here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it is damaging. It is harmful to her daughter, and it is dangerous to that lifestyle that that daughter is trying to live. Even though that mother may have the best intentions, it's not the right thing for that daughter. So when you mentioned that it's parasitic, absolutely true, because people are not acting in their own best interest. They're not thinking, feeling, and behaving in ways that are conducive to their own well-being, rather for the well-being of the spirit that's attached to them.
Have you ever seen a situation, Cadrich, where somebody can round up a spirit, a demon or something, to push it onto somebody else? Almost like a hex or a curse.
Yes, and in my years of study and practice, I've actually delved into the occult. I've delved into the dark arts, not as a means to practice these things. Well, the occult is a different story, because the occult means just hidden, and a lot of the occult teachings are actually advanced consciousness growth teachings that were forbidden because they were opposed to some of the major powers in the world at the time. But understanding the dark arts is so important in this line of work, because I need to know how it affects people. I need to know what the cause of some of these problems are that people are facing, what the root of that is, so I know how to work with it and counter it. You know, I'm not a doctor by any means, but if I were to put an analogy, it's the same thing as a doctor learning about viruses and how viruses attach to the cell and bring illness to the body, so the doctors can understand how that virus works and help to cure that person. So studying some of these dark arts, studying about curses and studying about some of these practices, there is a type of entity that we can create called a servitor. And a servitor is generally created in a ritual setting, you know, candles, incense, whatnot. And the practitioner will create like a clay or a wooden model of what this entity is like. He'll give it a name, he'll give it a purpose and a function, and that purpose and function can be to go harass somebody, can be to go make their life miserable, can be to give them a curse and make things not go well for them. And they send out this dark servitor, and it will act just like sort of like a demonic presence. But here's the kicker. That servitor is not really doing all the work. All the servitor really has to do is just show up and look scary. And then let the fear-based narratives that we've all been inundated with take over. And this is where I will say the most powerful part of that magic is not the servitor, but taking advantage of these fear-based narratives that there are demons everywhere looking to get you, that this possession stuff is real, that there's a demon in your house. That fear will take over that person because they don't understand what's going on. They don't have a structure or a framework with working with the paranormal. They think they're under attack, and their fear just goes through the roof. And that fear energy will create a poltergeist effect where things are getting thrown around, people are getting scratched or bitten, they hear growling sounds. It will create all sorts of negative activity that we would say, oh, this is demonic. But really, there's like maybe a negative servitor that's amping up the fear in that person, and that person is creating the worst of the situation for itself. In all these years of working with clients, when I've had people had bad things going on, really negative paranormal experiences, yes, we do some energy clearing. Yes, we do some spirit release work. Yes, we do the clearing out of the spirit. But most of the work is internal, readjusting their framework, readjusting their structure for interacting with the paranormal, doing their inner emotional work, their shadow work, so that these things can no longer affect them, so that it can't generate that fear in them. And then I've seen 100% of the time that negative activity stop and remain gone for good because we did the internal work where they're no longer afraid of this thing in the house with them.
Do you find, Kadrix, that a person who is more spiritual or religious tends to fight these off more?
That's a good... Or
more?
That's a really good question, and there's some complexities to that. Sometimes when we are adherent to religious orthodoxy, and I don't care what religion it is, whether it's Christian, like evangelism or Catholicism, or if it's any religion in the world, if we're following that religious orthodoxy, there is a certain inherent fear about that. You know, we look to demonology, we look to exorcisms, we look for all those stories that are surrounding some of these orthodox religions, and there's a lot of fear in there.
Listen to more Coast to Coast AM every weeknight at 1 a.m. Eastern, and go to coasttocoastam.com for more.
Big O Tires. We do things differently for a lot of reasons. And one is to give you the best deal possible. Handling the cost of car repairs can be a challenge, but we're here to help. Our no credit needed financing or 0% interest also come with exclusive benefits, so you can get back on the road. Financing. It's one more reason. Big O is the team you trust.
Honestly, no one wants to think about HIV, but there are things that everyone can do to help prevent it. Things like PrEP. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and it means routinely taking prescription medicine before you're exposed to HIV to help reduce your chances of getting it. PrEP can be about 99% effective when taken as prescribed. It doesn't protect against other STIs though, so be sure to use condoms and other healthy sex practices. Ask a healthcare provider about all your prevention options, and visit findoutaboutprep.com to learn more. Sponsored by Gilead.
Any way you enjoy Taco Bell's crispy chicken nuggets is the right way to enjoy them. And now there's a new way inside a Crunchwrap Slider. The all-white meat crispy chicken nuggets you love with your choice of creamy chipotle or jalapeno honey mustard sauce inside a slider-sized Crunchwrap. Iconic. The new crispy chicken Crunchwrap Slider with creamy chipotle or jalapeno honey mustard sauce. A brand new classic. Only at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only. While supplies last. Contact store for participation which varies.
This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab, hosted by Katie Milkman. An award-winning behavioral scientist and author of the best-selling book, How to Change, Choiceology is a show about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Hear true stories from Nobel laureates, authors, athletes, and everyday people about why we make the choices we do, and how to make better ones to help avoid costly mistakes. Listen to Choiceology at schwab.com/podcast or wherever you listen.
Excuse me. Thank goodness. All right. See y'all later.